through signs you can't fake. In this video, we're diving into 5 unmistakable signs his soul has already chosen you. Even if his mind hasn't caught up, stick with us, because one of these signs might just change how you see love forever. What if the way he notices you says more about his heart than any words ever could? Carl Jung, the master of the unconscious, taught us that true love doesn't always show up in grand declarations. It's in the subtle, almost invisible ways someone's soul reaches out to yours. The first unmistakable sign that a man is more in love with you than he realizes: his unconscious attention. This isn't the kind of attention that screams for applause or tries to impress you with flashy gestures. No, it's cuter, deeper, and far more real. It's the kind of attention that notices the smallest details about you, details even your closest friends might miss. Let's paint a picture. Imagine you're having a rough day, but you're putting on a brave face, saying, "I'm fine," when he asks how you are. Yet, somehow, he doesn't buy it. Maybe he tilts his head, looks into your eyes a little longer, and says, "You sure? You seem off." Or perhaps you've changed something subtle, like wearing a new scarf or parting your hair differently, and he's the first to comment. "That looks nice on you." These aren't random observations. They're signs. His unconscious mind is tuned into you, picking up on things most people overlook. Jung called this projection, when someone's deepest emotions spill out into their actions without them even realizing it. His heart is already paying attention to you in ways his mind hasn't fully processed. Let's ground this in a real story. Take Sarah, a 32-year-old graphic designer from Chicago. She'd been dating Michael for a few months, but she wasn't sure where they stood. He wasn't the type to shower her with compliments or make bold promises, and sometimes his quiet nature made her wonder if he cared at all. But then she started noticing something. Whenever they were together, Michael always seemed to sense when she was stressed, even if she didn't say a word. One day, after a long meeting, she let out a quiet sigh while they were grabbing coffee. Most people would have missed it, but Michael didn't. "Rough day?" he asked, his voice gentle. When she brushed it off, he pressed, "Come on, tell me what's up." That moment stuck with her, not because it was dramatic, but because it felt like he saw her in a way no one else did. This kind of attention isn't about strategy or trying to win you over. It's instinctive, almost like his soul is drawn to yours. Jung believed that when someone's unconscious is stirred, they start noticing things that resonate on a deeper level. Maybe he comments on the way your voice changes when you're excited about something, or he remembers a random story you told weeks ago about your childhood dog. These moments aren't just cute, they're proof his heart is already invested, even if he hasn't said "I love you" yet. So, why does this matter? Because in a world full of distractions, where people are glued to their phones and half listening, someone who truly sees you is rare. If he's noticing the little things, how you bite your lip when you're nervous, or how your eyes light up when you talk about your dreams, it's not just interest. It's his soul speaking to yours, saying, "You matter to me." And the best part, he might not even realize he's doing it. That's what makes it so authentic. Here's a practical tip. Start paying attention to those moments when he surprises you with his awareness. Does he ask about something you mentioned in passing? Does he notice when you're quieter than usual? Even if you haven't said anything, write these moments down if you need to, because they're like breadcrumbs leading you to a truth he might not be ready to admit. And if you're seeing this sign, don't dismiss it as just being nice. Jung taught us that the unconscious doesn't lie. It reveals what the heart already knows. But here's the catch. Don't expect him to always put this attention into words. Men, especially, I can feel something deeply without knowing how to express it. So, instead of waiting for a big confession, Trust what his actions are telling you. If he's noticing you in ways that feel personal, intimate, and effortless, his soul is already choosing you. And that's just the first sign. There's so much more to uncover about how his heart is speaking. Even if his lips are still silent, have you ever noticed how he seems to transform when you walk into the room? Maybe he's usually cool and collected, but with you, he's a little less polished, more open, more vulnerable, or even a bit clumsy. That's not just nerves. It's a powerful sign his soul is responding to you in ways he can't control. Carl Jung taught us that true love doesn't make someone act perfect, it disarms them, peeling back the layers to reveal their most authentic self. The second unmistakable sign that a man is more in love with you than he realizes, his behavior shifts when you're around, and it's unlike how he acts with anyone else. Picture this. He's the guy who's always confident at work, cracking jokes with his friends, or keeping things light and casual. But when he's with you, something changes. Maybe his voice softens, or he fumbles his words in a way that's oddly endearing. Perhaps he lets his guard down, sharing a quiet thought or a story he doesn't tell just anyone. These shifts aren't random, they're his unconscious, reacting to the connection he feels with you. Jung believed that when someone's soul recognizes another, it disrupts their usual patterns, making them more human, more real. It's as if your presence unlocks a side of him he didn't even know was there. Let's bring this to life with a story. Meet Emily, a 29-year-old teacher from Seattle. She'd been seeing Jake for a few months, and while he was charming and outgoing in group settings, she noticed something different when they were alone. Jake, who was always the life of the party, would get quieter, almost shy, when it was just the two of them. One evening, while they were walking through a park, he started talking about how he used to stargaze with his grandfather as a kid, a memory he admitted he'd never shared with anyone else. Emily was surprised, not just by the story, but by how his usual swagger vanished, replaced by a softness she hadn't seen before. "I don't know why I'm telling you this," he said, laughing nervously. That moment wasn't just sweet, it was a glimpse into his soul letting her in. Why does this happen? Jung's concept of the unconscious tells us that real love breaks through our defenses. When a man feels something deep for you, he can't help but act differently. Maybe he's more attentive, listening to you in a way that feels like he's hanging on to every word. Or maybe his silences with you aren't awkward but full of meaning, like he's comfortable just being in your presence. These changes aren't calculated, they're instinctive. His soul is responding to yours, and it's showing up in ways he might not even notice. This sign is powerful because it's not about what he says, it's about who he becomes around you. If he's more open, letting you see his quirks, his fears, or even his goofy side, it's because your presence makes him feel safe. Jung described love as a force that dismantles our inner walls. And when a man lets those walls come down with you, it's a sign his heart is already invested. Maybe he stumbles over a joke and laughs it off, or he shares a random thought about his day that feels deeply personal. These moments are his soul saying, "I trust you with the real me." Here's a practical tip. Pay attention to how he acts with others versus how he is with you. Does he let his guard down in ways he doesn't with his friends or co-workers? Does he seem more relaxed, more himself? Even if it means showing his imperfections, try noticing the little things, like if he's usually reserved but lights up when you talk about something you love. Those shifts are clues. His heart is speaking, even if his mind hasn't caught up yet. But here's the thing, don't mistake this for him trying to impress you. This isn't about grand gestures or putting on a show. It's about those unguarded moments when he's just himself. If he's letting you see the parts of him that aren't polished or perfect, it's because you're already touching something deep within him. And that's not just chemistry. It's a soul connection that's starting to reshape who he is when he's with you. Stay tuned, because the next sign dives even deeper into how his soul is choosing you. Even if he doesn't say a word, have you ever caught him checking if you're okay, in a way that feels almost instinctive? Maybe he texts to make sure you got home safe, or gently nudges you to eat when you've been too busy. These aren't just polite gestures, they're signs. His soul is quietly watching over you. Carl Jung taught us that when the heart loves, it protects. Not out of obligation, but from a deep, unconscious pull. The third unmistakable sign that a man is more in love with you than he realizes. He protects you without even knowing why. In ways that feel natural, effortless, and profoundly meaningful. This kind of protection isn't about control or grand heroics. It's not him trying to play the savior or show off. Instead, it's subtle, woven into the little things he does because something inside him feels responsible for your well-being. Maybe he insists you take his jacket when it's chilly, or he walks on the outside of the sidewalk without making a big deal of it. Perhaps he asks, "Did you sleep okay after you've had a long week?" His voice carrying a warmth that lingers. These moments are his unconscious saying, "You're important to me." Even if his conscious mind hasn't caught up with the depth of his feelings. Let's bring this to life with a story. Meet Lisa, a 27-year-old nurse from Boston. She'd been casually seeing Ryan for a few months, and while their connection was growing, she wasn't sure how serious he was. Ryan wasn't the type to make bold declarations, and his laid-back vibe sometimes left her wondering. But one night, after they'd grabbed dinner, it started pouring rain as they walked to her car. Without a word, Ryan took off his jacket and held it over her head, getting soaked himself. When she laughed and said, "I'm fine. You don't have to do that," he just shrugged and said, "I don't want you catching a cold." It wasn't dramatic, but it hit Lisa hard. Later, she noticed other things he'd text. "You home safe?" after she left his place. Or he'd quietly make sure she had water when they were out late. These weren't calculated moves, they were instinctive. Like his heart had already decided to keep her safe. Jung's wisdom helps us understand why this happens. He said, "What the soul loves, it protects." When a man's unconscious recognizes you as someone special, it stirs a primal urge to ensure your well-being, not because he's trying to control you, but because your happiness feels tied to his own. This isn't about fixing your problems or taking charge of your life. It's about those quiet, almost invisible acts of care that show his soul has already made you a priority. Maybe he notices you're stressed and suggests a break. Or he checks if you're okay when you seem distracted. These aren't just kind acts, they're his heart reaching out to yours. What makes this sign so powerful is its authenticity. He's not doing it for praise or to win points. In fact, he might not even realize how much he's doing it. Have you ever seen him worry about you in a way that feels oddly specific? Like making sure you're not walking alone at night or reminding you to take your meds when you're under the weather. These moments aren't about logic, they're about a connection that runs deeper than words. His soul feels a responsibility to you, as if your well-being is part of his own balance. Here's a practical tip. Start noticing those small, protective gestures that feel effortless. Does he check in when you've had a tough day, even if you didn't ask him to? Does he do things to make your life easier, like grabbing you a coffee when you're swamped, or making sure you're comfortable in a new place? Write these down, because they're evidence of a love that's growing quietly. And don't confuse this with possessiveness. True protection comes from care, not control. If he's looking out for you in ways that feel natural, his heart is already speaking. But here's the key. Don't expect him to always explain why he's doing it. Men often feel these instincts without knowing how to put them into words. So, instead of waiting for him to say, "I care about you," trust the actions that show it. If he's protecting you in these quiet, heartfelt ways, his soul has already chosen you as someone worth cherishing. And that's just the beginning. Stay with us, because the next sign reveals how you're becoming a part of his inner world in ways he might not even see yet. What if he's already weaving you into his dreams, even if he hasn't said it out loud? When a man starts sharing the deepest parts of himself, his fears, his hopes, or even casual mentions of a future with you, it's not just conversation. It's his soul opening a door to let you in. Carl Jung believed that when someone's unconscious recognizes a true connection, they start inviting you into their inner world, not just their daily life. The fourth unmistakable sign that a man is more in love with you than he realizes, you're becoming a part of his inner world, a space he guards fiercely and shares with very few. This isn't about him spilling every secret or oversharing to impress you. It's about those moments when he lets you see the raw, unfiltered parts of who he is, things he doesn't show the world. Maybe he tells you about a childhood fear that still lingers, or he opens up about a dream he's never pursued because he's afraid of failing. Perhaps, in a quiet moment, he says something like, "I'd love to visit Italy someday," and then adds, almost without thinking, "You'd probably love the food there." That subtle inclusion of you in his future isn't random. It's his unconscious mind placing you in the picture of his life, even if he hasn't fully acknowledged it. Let's ground this with a story. Meet Emma, a 30-year-old writer from Denver. She'd been dating Tom for 6 months, and while their relationship was steady, she wasn't sure if he saw a long-term future. Tom was kind but reserved, not one for big emotional displays. One night, as they sat on her couch watching a travel documentary, Tom started talking about how he'd always wanted to hike the Alps. Out of nowhere, he said, "You'd probably be great at it. You're so curious about everything." Emma laughed it off, but then he kept going, sharing how he'd been scared of taking risks since a failed business venture years ago. "I don't usually talk about this," he admitted, looking almost surprised at himself. That night stuck with Emma, not because it was dramatic, but because she realized Tom was letting her into a part of himself he kept hidden from everyone else. Jung's teachings shed light on why this happens. He spoke of the anima, the feminine aspect of a man's psyche that connects him to his emotions and deeper self. When a man starts to love you, you become a mirror for his anima, helping him access parts of himself he's kept locked away. That's why he might share things with you that feel intensely personal, like his regrets, his aspirations, or even a random memory that shaped him. It's not just trust, it's his soul recognizing you as someone who can hold space for his truest self. And when he starts imagining you in his future, even in small ways, it's a sign you're no longer just a part of his present. You're becoming a piece of his inner world. This sign is powerful because it shows a level of vulnerability most men don't offer lightly. If he's letting you see his doubts, his dreams, or his unguarded thoughts, it's because you feel safe to him. Maybe he talks about a tough decision he's facing and asks what you think. Not because he needs advice, but because your perspective matters to him. Or maybe he shares a quiet hope, like wanting to live somewhere new someday. And you notice, he's picturing you there too. These moments are his heart saying, "You're not just someone I know, you're someone I carry with me." Here's a practical tip. Pay attention to when he opens up in ways that feel unexpected. Does he share stories or thoughts he says he doesn't tell others? Does he include you in his plans or dreams, even casually? Notice if he seeks your opinion on things that matter to him, like his career or personal goals. These are clues he's letting you into his inner sanctum, and don't rush him to define it. Let these moments unfold naturally, because they're proof his soul is already choosing you. But here's the key. This isn't about him changing who he is for you. It's about him revealing who he is because of you. If he's sharing his inner world, It's because you've become a safe haven for his heart. That's not just love, it's a soul connection that's reshaping how he sees himself and his future. Stay with us, because the final sign will show how his love shows up, even when you're not around. Proving his heart has already made its choice. What if he's thinking of you, even when you're miles apart? When a man's heart has chosen you, you don't just exist in the moments you're together, you live in his thoughts, his emotions, even when you're not around. Carl Jung taught us that the unconscious isn't bound by time or space. And when someone's soul is stirred, their energy shifts in ways they can't always explain. The fifth unmistakable sign that a man is more in love with you than he realizes his energy changes when you're absent, pulling him toward you in subtle but powerful ways. This isn't about him blowing up your phone with texts or constantly needing to be in touch. It's deeper than that. It's the way you linger in his mind, showing up in his thoughts when there's no reason for it. Maybe he brings you up in a conversation with friends, mentioning something you said that made him laugh. Or he sees something, a book, a sunset, a random joke, and his first instinct is to share it with you. Perhaps he's quieter than usual, a little distracted, because part of him is processing the connection he feels with you. These are signs his unconscious is keeping you close, even when you're physically apart. Let's make this real with a story. Meet Alex, a 28-year-old marketing coordinator from Austin. She'd been seeing Daniel for a few months, and while their time together was great, she wondered if he felt as strongly as she did. Daniel wasn't big on grand gestures, and his busy schedule often kept them apart for days. But then Alex started noticing something. One day, out of the blue, Daniel texted her a photo of a quirky coffee shop sign, saying, "This made me think of you. You'd love this place." Another time, when they hadn't spoken in a week, he called just to tell her about a funny thing that happened at work. Admitting, "I couldn't wait to tell you." Then, a friend of Daniel's mentioned that he'd brought up Alex during a guy's night, saying how her passion for photography inspired him. These moments weren't loud, but they showed Alex that she was on his mind, even when life pulled them in different directions. Jung's insights help us understand this. He believed that when a true emotional connection forms, it creates a kind of psychic resonance that transcends physical presence. When a man's soul recognizes yours, you become a figure in his inner world, not just a person he sees, but someone who shapes his thoughts and feelings. Maybe he's driving home and remembers a story you told, smiling to himself. Or he saves a meme to send you later, because he knows it'll make you laugh. These aren't random acts. They're his unconscious keeping you present, like a quiet hum in the background of his life. What makes this sign so special is its authenticity. He's not doing it to impress you or check a box. It's involuntary. Like his heart is finding ways to stay connected to you. Have you ever noticed him reaching out for no clear reason, just to share a thought or check in? Or maybe someone mentions that he talked about you when you weren't there. Not in a showy way, but in a way that feels natural. That's his soul saying, "You're part of me, even when you're not in the same room." Here's a practical tip. Pay attention to how he keeps you in his orbit when you're apart. Does he send you something small, a song, a photo, a quick message that shows you're on his mind? Does he bring up memories of you in conversations with others, even casually? Notice if he seems a little off or reflective. When you haven't connected in a while, it might mean he's feeling your absence more than he lets on. These are clues his heart is holding on to you, even across the distance. But here's the thing, don't expect him to always articulate this. Men can feel your presence deeply without knowing how to express it. So, instead of waiting for him to say, "He's thinking of you," trust the signs that show it. Those unexpected messages, those quiet mentions, those moments when you realize you're living in his thoughts. If his energy shifts in your absence, it's not just love. It's a soul connection that's anchoring you to his heart. Stay with us for the outro, where we'll tie it all together and show you how to trust these signs as proof of something real. So, there you have it. 5 powerful signs that his soul is speaking what his words might not yet say. Carl Jung taught us that true love isn't always loud or obvious. It's in the quiet glances, the instinctive care, the way you become a part of his world, even when he's not ready to admit it. If you felt these signs, if his attention lingers, his behavior softens, or you're living in his thoughts when you're apart, trust that spark. It's not just your imagination, it's his heart calling you home. Don't miss out on this journey of love and self-discovery. Drop the word resonance in the comments below if any of these signs hit home for you. And if you want more insights into the psychology of love and Carl Jung's wisdom, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a video. Share this with someone who needs to see these signs. And let's keep exploring the language of the soul together. What's the sign that resonated most with you? Let me know below.